All right, today we're going to talk about turning some basic shapes into 3D forms. So we talked about shape as being one of the elements of art. We know that they are two-dimensional or 2D. They are flat objects. They have height and width. And what we want to do is to make them into 3D forms. When we're talking about forms, we're normally talking about, pieces of pottery, sculpture, houses, things of that nature. But we can also show form in a two-dimensional aspect with drawing and painting. So we're going to basically just go over a few of those techniques today that I want you to try out on your own. So we're going to start off, and I'm just going to freehand this. I'm not going to use any kind of tracing template. So we're going to start off with the old circle. Now, if you got a lot of lines showing, that's perfectly fine. This is just practice. It does not have to be perfect. So, of course, we want to take this two-dimensional shape, this circle, and make a sphere out of it. Okay, so what do I have to do? There's really nothing else I can draw, so I'm going to have to add some value to that. So we're adding value, and what is that gonna look like? Okay, so I've got me another circle drawn here, and basically adding value. I'm gonna do that with my pencil, and when I shade, I like to use the broad side of the pencil tip. And I'm going to start off using a lot of pressure here where I want my darker areas. We're assuming that our light source is coming from this side. And might even want to add a little bit of a cast shadow down in there. So basically what I've done is I've taken the circle and we've made that to a 3D sphere, a form, simply by adding the value with the pencil. Now we could do that with a color pencil, we could do that with oil pastels, paint, just a variety of different ways that we could go about doing that. Let's next take a look at the square. Again, freehand. So I've got my basic square drawn out. Okay, so we'll fill that in. We've got the square. So what I have to draw, we'll add another square. So let's see what that looks like. So square equals and I'm just going to take this other square and I'm going to let this first square overlap my second one. This is one way of doing this. Now when I get to that point, I'm going to have to connect these corners just like this. And of course now I have to go back in with my eraser and erase those lines that I don't want showing. Now that's one method. Some people prefer to do it other ways, but you can kind of try your hand, what works best for you. In fact, me, sometimes I will, and I'll just draw this right up here. I'll draw my square And I will go ahead and draw my lines and just make my cube, because this is what we've made, that way. To me, that's how I learn, that's how I prefer. You might find it easier combining the two shapes together and connecting them. Nonetheless, we've taken a flat two-dimensional square and turned that into the 3D form, which is a cube. So let's take a look at another basic shape, the triangle. Okay, so how do we basically make this a form? We can add just another side. So we're adding this shape over here on this corner. So this is our triangle. So I'm going to draw my triangle. Then we're going to add this side, basically. And that gives me my pyramid. Simply taking the 2D flat shape of a triangle, basically making that into a three-dimensional pyramid. Of course, there's a couple different variations. This is what we would call a square-based pyramid. We could make a triangular prism, which would kind of look like a rooftop. So lots of different ways. So far we've taken the circle, we've added value, made the sphere. 3D, we've taken a basic square, we've turned that into the 3D form of that, which is the cube. Told you basically two different ways you can draw that. And we've taken our triangle, added in the side here to make our pyramid. All right, so let's keep going right on. And I'll just go over here on this side of my paper. I may have to draw just a little bit smaller as we're going. So I'm going to continue with the triangle. And again, I'm freehanding this. And I'm going to add an oval to it. So you probably already know what this is going to turn out to be, and I'll just have to draw it down here. We have our triangle, which we have made into now a cone. Okay, the cone too kind of helps make it look a little bit more three-dimensional. If we add in that pencil shading or that value, kind of helps it give it that form. Now the bottom of it might be completely dark if our light source is hitting it from this side. Okay, and of course we could draw that, you can basically turn that in any direction you want to. This kind of looks almost like, I guess you could say, a witch's hat. But if we turned it upside down, it would look like an ice cream cone. So that's our cone. And we're going to do two more. Now we're going to take a rectangle. All right, and basically what we're going to turn this into rather is a rectangular prism. So this is going to be very much like we did our square over here. You can kind of basically figure out what method works for you. So we know we're going to add a another rectangle. Rectangle plus a rectangle is going to give us a rectangular prism. So let's take a look at what that looks like. So here I've drawn my second shape. And we see I've just got a little bit of overlapping. And I can now connect my corners. And yes, you are correct, because this is a solid form, so I want to erase those little lines. So we're not going to be able to see through this object. So that's our rectangular prism. Now me personally, I like to draw that the same way I drew the cube, and I'll just do a quick little drawing on the back of my paper here. So I'll draw my rectangle, and I draw my lines and just basically connect those. And of course, you can see I could do that a little bit neater. That's just the way I'm used to drawing. And again, same way with the square, turning that into a cube. I just find that a little bit easier, okay? Now, of course, we could add some shading in here, and we can also draw these in a variety of ways. You can draw it from every possible conceivable angle that you can think of. So I'll just draw a couple of those. Again, my drawings are not perfect. This is just practice, just making some 3D forms on your paper. But if you take a look at all these, all these cubes right here, okay? They're all cubes, except we're seeing them from a different perspective, This cube, we can see the top side and the right side. This cube, we can see the bottom and the right side. This cube, we can see the top and the left side. This cube right here, we can see the bottom and the left side. And pretty much, that covers all your angles for how you could draw that cube. So, kind of pick a way that you feel best is easiest for you. You might find it easier drawing the exact same way that I did, all right? So I'm running out of room here. One more thing, the cylinder that I wanted to draw for you. And we're gonna start off with a rectangle. So what do we need to make the cylinder? We basically need to add an oval just like we did up here for the cone. Here we took a triangle, added the oval, made the cone. Here we're taking a rectangle, adding the oval here, and creating a cylinder. So when I draw a cylinder, let's first label these. We'll go ahead and label this one. Now we're getting kind of small here, running out of room. I always like to draw that oval first. Now my table's a little bit bumpy here. So I got a few extra lines I really don't want. So there is my cylinder, basically kind of like a cup. And then again, the cylinder, just like the cone, works well when we simply add a little bit of shading in there. So our light source is coming over here. And there's my cylinder. Now, if you'll notice the shadows, why they're on different sides of our light source, our sun, our light bulb, artificial light, whatever, if it is hitting the side of this cylinder, it's gonna light up here and we're gonna have our shadow over this side. But inside the cylinder, just think about it like a cup. The shadow is actually gonna be over here on the left-hand side because all the light is coming into the cylinder and it's hitting this right side wall. We're going to do an in-depth video a little bit later on pencil shading. For right now, you don't really have to be the best pencil shader to draw these 3D forms from the shape. So again, we've got our circle, we've added value, we've made the sphere, we've taken our basic shape of a square, and we've added another square to make our cube. Again, you may find it easier to draw it the method that I like best. You kind of do what works best for you. We've taken a triangle, we've added another side to make a pyramid. All forms. We've taken the 2D shape of a triangle, added a oval to make the form of a cone. We've taken a rectangle, added another rectangle here to make this rectangular prism here. And last but not least, we've taken this rectangle, added this oval to make our 3D cylinder. So what I want you to do is to practice these 5 shapes. This is going to be your assignment that you're going to be taking a picture of. As always, we never want to forget to add our name to our work before we take a picture of that and submit that into Canvas. It is very, very important to label your work. Since this is just a rough draft, you shouldn't have no problem with writing right on it because this is just a practice. But I want you to work on these 5 forms that we have drawn here. The sphere, the cube, the pyramid, the cone, the rectangular prism, actually make that 6, I'm sorry, and the cylinder. So you have 6 different forms to draw from these 2D shapes, okay? Practice makes perfect. These don't have to be, precisely drawn. These all have a kind of sketch feel. The lines aren't perfectly even. You see several lines here, and artists do that just to basically get down a rough idea. And try a little bit of the shading. I know some of you haven't learned the shading techniques yet, especially our 6th graders, our 7th graders, and 8th graders. You've done this with a few different assignments. So we'll go, like I say, in depth more about shading later. So let's practice these 6 shapes here. Hope you've enjoyed this video.